All right, let's dive into human genetics.
Yeah, unpack those biology notes.
Where we cover it all.
Genetic counseling, prenatal diagnosis,
Treatments for genetic conditions.
and even the Human Genome Project.
So much to talk about, so let's jump in.
Sounds good.
Let's start with genetic counseling.
Okay.
What exactly do genetic counselors do?
They're kind of like family history detectives.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they help you understand your family's genetic background and assess the risk of you passing on certain conditions to your children.
So they'd be the ones to see if, say, cystic fibrosis runs in my family.
Exactly.
Wow, okay.
They use your family history, their knowledge of genes,
Right.
to figure out the chances of you passing on specific conditions.
So if cystic fibrosis does run in my family,
Okay.
how would they figure out the chances of me passing it on to my kids?
Well, let's look at cystic fibrosis.
Okay.
We know it's caused by a recessive gene. So you need 2 copies of the faulty gene to have the disease. And if you only have 1 copy, you're a carrier.
Like my note said.
Yes, exactly.
But what if both my partner and I are carriers?
Okay.
What are the chances our child would actually have CF?
So that's where the probability of inheritance comes in.
Okay.
Each child would have a 25% chance of inheriting 2 copies of that recessive gene.
Okay.
And therefore, having cystic fibrosis,
Wow, that's...
yeah, a genetic counselor would explain those odds to you
Okay.
and really help you understand what that means for your family planning.
Yeah, I can imagine that would be
It can be a lot to process.
a lot to process, yeah.
Genetic counselors are also trained to help people navigate those complex emotions.
Okay.
They provide support and guidance to help families make informed decisions
That's really valuable.
based on their own individual circumstances and values.
It's not just about the science.
No.
It's about the human impact.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about assessing risk
Yeah.
before having children.
Right.
But what about testing during pregnancy? I remember reading about pre-implantation diagnosis.
Yes, PGD, it allows for genetic testing of embryos that are created through IVF.
So they're testing the embryos before they're implanted.
Exactly.
Wow, how does that actually work?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
They take a single cell from the early embryo.
Okay.
It contains all the genetic information,
Right.
and they analyze its chromosomes, looking for any abnormalities.
So they could check the embryos for cystic fibrosis.
Exactly.
And then only the embryos without that genetic abnormality would be implanted.
Typically, yes.
That's a powerful tool.
It is.
It raises some ethical considerations.
Definitely.
Yeah, you're looking to the future health of your child
Yeah.
before they're even born.
It's a big decision.
Okay, so that's pre-implantation diagnosis.
Right.
What about testing after someone's already pregnant?
Okay, so that's when prenatal diagnosis comes in.
Okay,
And there are a few different procedures,
got it.
each with its own pros and cons.
Okay, well, let's start with amniocentesis. I know they take a sample of amniotic fluid,
Yes.
but what are they actually looking for in the fluid?
So the amniotic fluid contains fetal cells,
Okay.
which they can then analyze for chromosomal abnormalities.
So, for example,
They can look for an extra copy of chromosome 21, which indicates Down syndrome.
so they're looking at the chromosomes under a microscope.
Well, they use a technique called karyotyping
Okay.
to create an image of the chromosomes,
Okay.
all lined up neatly so they can visually inspect them for abnormalities.
That's incredible. I remember karyotypes from my textbook.
Yeah,
It's like a genetic fingerprint.
it is. It is.
So how does amniocentesis actually work?
They use ultrasound to guide a needle into the surrounding the fetus,
Okay.
and they carefully extract a small amount of fluid.
That sounds a little scary.
Yeah.
Are there any risks?
Like any medical procedure, there are always some risks, but they are generally quite low. And amniocentesis is typically performed later in pregnancy, usually around the 14th week or later.
Okay, so if amniocentesis is done later, are there any options for testing earlier in pregnancy?
Yes, there's another procedure called chorionic villus sampling, or CVS.
CVS.
Yeah, and it's done earlier, typically around the 9th week of pregnancy.
So what's the difference?
Instead of taking a sample of amniotic fluid, CVS involves taking a small sample of tissue from the chorion.
From the chorion.
Yeah, which is part of the placenta.
The placenta, the organ that connects the mother and the developing fetus.
Exactly.
Why take a sample from there?
Because the chorion contains fetal cells that can be analyzed for those chromosomal abnormalities, just like with amniocentesis.
Interesting. So both procedures are essentially looking for the same things,
That's right.
just at different stages of pregnancy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Both amniocentesis and CVS provide valuable information, but they're not typically routine procedures.
Right.
They're usually offered to women who have an increased risk of having a baby with a genetic condition.
So it's all about weighing the benefits and the risks.
Exactly.
And then there's fetoscopy, right?
Yes.
That's where they use a tiny camera
Yeah.
to directly observe the fetus.
Fetoscopy is a more specialized procedure.
Yeah.
It allows doctors to see the fetus directly,
Okay.
which can be helpful for diagnosing certain conditions or even performing some fetal surgeries.
Wow. That's mind-boggling.
Yeah,
It's like a miniature surgery being performed inside the womb.
it is.
It's incredible how much we can do with technology these days.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that each of these procedures has its own specific indications and limitations.
Right.
A genetic counselor or doctor can help determine which test is appropriate for each individual situation.
Okay, so we've covered genetic counseling and prenatal diagnosis,
Right.
which are all about understanding and assessing risk.
Yes.
But what happens when a genetic condition is already diagnosed?
Okay.
What can be done then?
Well, that's where we get into treating genetic conditions. And it's a rapidly evolving field.
Okay.
There's a range of approaches, from managing symptoms to actually targeting the genes themselves.
So, like, what are some of the ways doctors manage genetic conditions?
Sometimes early detection is key.
Uh.
Take phenylketonuria, or PKU.
BKU?
Yeah, it's a metabolic disorder where the body can't break down a certain amino acid.
And what happens if it's not caught early?
It can lead to intellectual disabilities,
Oh, wow.
but
So how do they catch it early?
newborn screening.
Okay.
Many countries routinely test babies for PKU right after birth,
Uh-huh.
and if it's detected, they can manage it with a special diet.
So they can prevent those severe complications just with a special diet.
Exact.
That's a great example of how early intervention can make a huge difference.
It is.
So it's not always about a cure.
No.
It's about managing the condition effectively.
Right.
What are some other approaches?
Well, surgery is another option.
Okay.
For example, cleft palate.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
It's a birth defect where the roof of the mouth doesn't fully close,
Right.
but it can be surgically repaired.
Oh, wow.
And then there's environmental control.
Okay.
People with albinism who lack pigment in their skin, they need to protect themselves from the sun.
Right. It's about adapting to the condition,
Exactly.
minimizing risks.
Yeah.
But what about actually fixing the genes themselves?
Okay.
I remember reading about gene therapy,
Yeah.
and it sounded like science fiction.
It is definitely pushing the boundaries of medicine.
So how does it work?
It's all about introducing healthy genes into cells to compensate for faulty ones.
So they're basically replacing the broken gene with a working one.
Yeah, think of it like delivering a package to a specific address.
Right.
Scientists use modified viruses as delivery vehicles.
Viruses, the things that make us sick?
They can be, yes, but in this case, they're harnessed for good.
Interesting.
They remove the harmful parts of the virus
Okay.
and replace them with the therapeutic gene. It's like turning a villain into a hero.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
But can you give me a real-world example?
Sure.
Like, how has gene therapy actually helped people?
There's a groundbreaking case from 1992.
Okay.
A woman in Quebec had a life-threatening cholesterol condition
Uh-huh.
because she inherited 2 copies of a faulty gene.
Okay.
So doctors took some of her liver cells, inserted the healthy cholesterol gene into those cells using a virus.
They used a virus.
Yes, and then they reintroduced those modified cells back into her liver.
Wow. So they basically gave her cells a genetic tune-up.
They did.
Did it work?
It did. Her
Oh.
cholesterol levels significantly improved,
That's amazing.
and it marked one of the earliest successes of gene therapy.
That's incredible.
This approach has paved the way for treating a range of genetic disorders,
Like what?
from inherited blindness to certain types of cancer.
Wow. Gene therapy really is revolutionizing medicine.
It is.
But with such powerful tools, there come big questions, right?
Absolutely.
What are some of the ethical considerations surrounding gene therapy?
Well, one concern is the potential for unintended consequences.
What do you mean?
Like, altering genes could have unforeseen effects on other parts of the body,
Oh, okay. That's
like a ripple effect.
Right.
Another concern is accessibility and affordability.
Oh, right.
Gene therapies are incredibly complex and expensive to develop,
Yeah,
making them inaccessible to many who need them.
that makes sense.
And there are ongoing debates about using gene therapy for enhancement purposes,
What do you mean?
like boosting intelligence or athletic ability.
That's where it gets tricky.
It does.
Where do we draw the line
Exactly.
between treating disease and enhancing human capabilities?
Those are questions society needs to grapple with as gene therapy becomes more sophisticated and widely available.
It's a powerful tool
It is.
with immense potential,
Pressure.
but we need to use it responsibly and ethically.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've covered the fascinating world of gene therapy. Now, let's shift gears to something equally groundbreaking. The Human Genome Project.
The monumental effort to map out the entirety of human DNA.
It was a global collaboration, right?
It was.
That took years of research and involved countless scientists.
It did.
I remember reading about it.
Yeah.
They basically created a map of all our genes.
Yes, right.
What was the point of doing that?
Well, it revolutionized our understanding of human biology.
In what way?
By knowing the sequence of our DNA,
Okay.
we can pinpoint the location of genes that cause diseases, leading to earlier diagnosis and more targeted treatments.
So it's like having a detailed blueprint of our genetic makeup.
It is.
But the Human Genome Project wasn't just about identifying genes, was it?
No, it wasn't.
What else did it accomplish?
It revealed that we have far fewer genes than initially expected.
Really?
Scientists thought we'd have around 100,000 genes.
Wow.
But the project revealed we have closer to 30,000 to 50,000.
That's surprising.
It is.
What does that tell us?
It suggests that the complexity of human life isn't solely determined by the number of genes we have.
Okay.
It's more about how those genes interact with each other and with the environment.
So it's not just about the genes themselves, it's about the network of interactions.
Exactly.
That makes it even more fascinating.
It does.
But this knowledge also raises some ethical questions, right?
Absolutely.
Like what?
Knowing your genetic predispositions raises concerns about privacy and potential discrimination.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Could employers or insurance companies use this information against individuals?
That's a scary thought.
It is.
And what about the psychological impact
Yeah.
of knowing you're at risk for a serious disease?
That's big work.
How do people cope with that information?
Those are all valid concerns.
Yeah.
The Human Genome Project opened up a Pandora's box of ethical and social dilemmas that we're still grappling with today.
It's clear that as we unlock the secrets of our genes, we also unlock a whole new set of responsibilities.
We do?
It's not just about the science.
No.
It's about how we use that knowledge wisely and ethically.
Precisely.
The Human Genome Project has been a monumental achievement,
It has.
but it's just the beginning.
Right.
Now we're entering an era of personalized medicine,
We are.
where treatments can be tailored to an individual's unique genetic makeup.
That's the future.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it is.
Imagine a world where we can prevent diseases before they even develop,
I know, it's amazing.
based on our genetic blueprint.
Yeah.
But before we get too carried away with the future,
Okay.
let's take a moment to reflect on all we've learned so far.
Right.
We've covered genetic counseling, prenatal diagnosis, the intricacies of treating genetic conditions,
We have.
and the vast implications of the Human Genome Project.
It's been quite a journey.
It has.
And we've still got more ground to cover.
All right, so we're back,
Back for more genetics.
ready to wrap up our deep dive into this fascinating world.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot, from family history to gene therapy. The Human Genome Project.
It's been a lot.
But one thing that's come up again and again
Yeah.
are the ethical considerations
That's right. The ethical considerations.
that come with all these advancements in genetics.
Huge implications.
And not just about what we can do,
Right.
it's about what we should do,
Absolutely.
about using this knowledge responsibly, ensuring it benefits humanity
Benefits all of us.
as a whole.
As we delve deeper into the human genome,
Right.
we're uncovering incredible possibilities
Yes.
for understanding and treating diseases.
It's exciting.
But we also need to be mindful of the potential pitfalls.
One of the big concerns is the potential for genetic information to be used for discrimination.
That's a big one.
Could employers or insurance companies
Right.
use someone's genetic predispositions against them?
It's a valid concern.
Yeah.
There's a real risk that genetic information could be used
Right.
to create new forms of prejudice and inequality.
So how do we prevent that?
That's where clear guidelines and regulations come in.
Okay.
We need strong legal protections.
To prevent genetic discrimination.
Exactly, in areas like employment and insurance.
It's like we need a new set of ethical rules for this genetic age.
We do. We need to consider the implications and establish clear boundaries
Right.
to protect individual rights and prevent misuse of this knowledge.
Another concern I have is about access
Access.
to these new technologies.
That's a big one.
Gene therapies sound amazing,
They do.
but they're also incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
Will only the wealthy be able to benefit from these breakthroughs?
That's a critical issue.
It is.
We need to ensure that these advancements
Right.
don't exacerbate existing health disparities.
Yeah.
We need to work towards making these technologies accessible and affordable for everyone.
For everyone who needs them.
For everyone,
It's
exactly.
about equity and fairness
It is.
in healthcare,
Absolutely.
regardless of someone's socioeconomic status.
We need to think bigger. Beyond the practical considerations, there are also deeper philosophical questions.
Like what?
What does it mean to be human in an age where we can manipulate our own genes?
That is a deep question.
Is
Where do we draw the line?
between treating disease
Yeah.
and enhancing human capabilities.
It's like science fiction is becoming reality.
It is.
We need to figure out how to navigate this uncharted territory.
We're entering a new era of human existence.
Wow.
One where we have the power to shape our own evolution.
It's a powerful thought.
It is, and with that power comes responsibility.
Yeah.
To use it wisely and ethically.
This deep dive has been a real eye-opener.
It has.
I've learned so much about the incredible possibilities and the complex challenges of genetics.
It's been a pleasure exploring these topics with you.
Likewise.
And this is just the beginning.
Right.
The field of genetics is constantly evolving.
Always changes.
There's so much more to discover.
So where do we go from here?
Well, one area of intense research is epigenetics.
Epigenetics.
The study of how environmental factors can influence gene expression.
So, like, our environment can actually affect how our genes work.
Exactly. Imagine being able to use lifestyle changes or therapies to switch genes on or off.
That's incredible.
It
Our genes aren't necessarily our destiny.
Right.
We have more control than we thought
We do.
over our health and well-being.
Another exciting area is personalized medicine.
Oh, right. We touched on that earlier.
Treatments tailored to an individual's genetic makeup?
So instead of a one-size-fits-all approach,
Yeah,
we'll have treatments specifically designed for each person.
that's the goal.
That's amazing.
It holds the promise of more effective treatments.
With fewer side effects.
Exactly.
The future of medicine is looking pretty amazing.
It is.
But we need to proceed with caution.
Absolutely.
Make sure these advancements are used for good.
For the benefit of all humankind.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It has.
I'm sure we'll be talking about these issues for years to come.
We will.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of human genetics.
It's been a pleasure.
Keep those neurons firing.
Keep learning. Keep exploring the incredible world of science.